I will try to present you not only one example, but a set of examples of modeling approaches that we have developed in the case of the control of the banana weevil. So we didn't see our presentation before, but with Noel we have some redundancy, but you will see. So a model is a point of view. It can be something that is static, like this, but it can either be a dynamic point of view on a given system. It also can be very detailed, and some models are really very complex and integrate a lot of detailed knowledge and detailed process. It can be less detailed. In some cases, we have to select which process we integrate in the model. And in other cases, it can be extremely simplified and even theoretical. It's also a question of scale. It can be on a radius scale, a small scale. For example, there is some models that focus only on one aspect of the behavior of an insect or a pest or the functioning of a plant. And at the opposite, we can have very broad scale models that will address a world landscape questions. What is very interesting in models is that for a same object, for a same system, you can have different point of views. And this is very important because I think that everybody is able to design a model. As Jean-Noël said, it can be something very easy. And what is interesting is that what is important is to set the model according to the question you want to address. This is really I think, the key of modeling. For that it is useful. Okay, let's go back to the case of banana. So, as I said yesterday, there is a set of pests and diseases, and today I will just address the question of the control of the banana weevil grower. So it's an insect that has a relatively long life cycle. After egg laying, it takes around 1 week for the hatching, and then after larval and nymph stages, there is the emergence of adults, and adults can live up to 3 years. We have measured them in the laboratory. They can live really very long, and this is something important. The larvae are digging galleries in the bulb and the corm of the bananas, which cause the topple over of the plant. It's in many regions. It's the first limiting factor of the growth of the bananas. For example, in Africa on plantains, it's the #1 problem. In many regions, and especially in the French West Indies, in the Caribbean French islands, up to the early 90s, and for some cases in the end of 90s, we use very, very bad insecticides. The one on the top, Kepon, was a chlordecone product. It's something extremely not so toxic, but extremely remnant in the environment, and it caused very big issue. It was amazingly enhanced in the press, and it was really a very big health problem of those islands. For example, the press said that, okay, 95% of people living in some islands are contaminated with this product. It was a very big scandal of pesticide in this region. So there were really, it was very important to develop some strategies that are not relying on these chemicals. So the first use of models I want to show you today, it's something very simple, a very simple model. It's a very theoretical model based on, maybe some of you know, it's a Lotka-Volterra approaches, but simplified and a bit parameterized for the case of the banana weevil. So we will consider in this model a field in which you can have some inoculum of insects, and these insects can make their life cycle, and the population will grow. You can also have insects that are coming from other fields, so migration. And if you consider this system, you will have such a population dynamic. So it will be our reference population dynamic. So what is interesting to see here is the area under the curve, which is the area all there, which is something like an assessment of how bad is the population for the crop. So the initial situation was using pesticides. So if you spray pesticide, you will have an immediate decrease of the population, but it's not it's a little bit effective, but not that much, and the population will grow immediately. So you can see the value of the area under the curve. It decreased slightly, but not that much, in fact. If you consider the whole simulation here, the area under the curve is not that much decreased. We can also try to have different approaches that will not rely on pesticides, but on other aspects. For example, we can try to decrease the inoculum. So we start with a lower inoculum with fewer insects, and we reduce the migration from outside fields. In this case, we see that we have a dynamic that is slightly different. And in this case, we have something that is not better than pesticides, but with a similar area under the curve. We can try also to see what happens if we test some other strategies. For example, a trapping strategy that I will detail later. But if we try to use this strategy, we also have a decrease, but it's a bit better, but not that better. We can also try to see separately what happens if we increase the rate of predation of the eggs that are very a sensitive stage for predation. It also has an effect, but not that strong. But very interestingly, if we combine the trapping strategy and the predation, we already have something that becomes quite interesting and already much better than pesticides. And if we even better combine it with decreasing the migration, decreasing the inoculum, enhancing the predation, and using trap strategies, we have something that is really very efficient. So just a simple model helps us to understand quantitatively and dynamically how, by combining different control methods at different steps of the dynamic of the pest, we can arrive to something that has chance to be effective on the field. But very interestingly also, if you miss one step of the control strategy, for example, if you have a predation, trapping, but that you have a lot of migration and high inoculum, it completely dampens, it's not visible here, maybe, but the curve is here. It completely dampens the effect, and you return to something that is not good at all. So today I will try to illustrate how we used modeling approach for different steps of the control. First, I will try to see how we use models to better understand and to better design strategies to minimize the recolonization of the field and to better manage the dispersal of the pest. And also, the second example will be related to how plant diversity can enhance the predation on eggs and larval stages. Okay, so my first example is about the insights from the spatial epidemiology. So as you have seen, we have a pest that is able to move from one field to another. And initially, after some measure over a farm, for example, here you have a farm with different fields, and each black dot is a point where we measure dynamically the population of the weevil. And what we have seen is that on fields that are destroyed before replanting or before going to fallows, we have seen that there is a peak of capture corresponding to a peak of dispersal of the adult, something like 10 to 20 weeks after you begin to destroy the banana field. So this was really very interesting because it shows us that if you organize the fields over the farm on a clever way, you have chance to reduce the population. And inversely, if you do not manage nicely your spatial organization of the farm, of the fields, you will maybe you can provoke big outbreak of the pest. So there were a need to understand how the insects were able to move from a field to another and also to move inside the fields. So there was really a big lack of knowledge on how the insect is moving in the fields. Basically, we used traps first to monitor the insect. And those traps are based on a pheromone that is attracting the insect. And we put this pheromone inside the traps like this. So there is a little bottle of pheromone that is regularly spray the pheromone. And the insects are captured on a pitfall type trap. So with such a trap, it was used initially to monitor the population, but we have seen rapidly that it can also be used as a mass trapping strategy. But the question is how we can optimize the use of this trap, because it can be costly to use this trap. So you should not put the trap anywhere. And we have seen that the population over a farm are moving quite rapidly, and if you keep your trap on a precise way and you don't move it anymore, it's not maybe the best strategy. So the question were when, where, and how many traps we should use to control the pest. So as I said before, we have a pest that has some characteristics. It is a relatively long life cycle, moderate growth rate, and very interestingly, the dispersal is active. It means that the insect decide to move from a place to another. So it takes decision to move from one place to another. And the behavior of dispersal was something very important to understand if we want to better understand where to put the traps. So our idea was how can we measure the dispersal of the insect. So since it's an insect that only moves by walking on the ground, we were able to use microchips that are RFID chip that make possible tracking them individually. It means that every day we make a measure of the insect, their location on the field. So it's a microchip that will stick to the insect. And with some devices like that are like detector, we were able to precisely locate where are each insect. And you can see here there is little markers. Each time we find the insect, precisely we put a sticker. And we do this every day. Voilà, this is a detection of the insect, and based on this the measure of the location of each insect every day, we were able to establish map of movements. So this is an example of map where we measure all the movements of the insect over the fields. This information was really interesting. It allowed us to better understand, for example, how the planting pattern alters the dispersion of the insect. We have shown that, for example, that when you have rows rather than a regular distribution of the banana, it alters how the insects are selecting their are moving inside the field. It also helps us to show that there is no difference of movement between male and females. It was something that were not known before. It has an importance because it's only the females that are laying eggs and that are potentially and that are causing the damages. Okay, so based on all this knowledge, our idea was how can we use a model to then design a strategy of trapping. So our idea was to integrate this knowledge in a model and to do that, we use an individual scale model. It is what we call individual-based model. It is very interesting, this type of model, because you start from parameters that are at the level of the individual. So it's how the insect decide to go to one place to another, what distance it is supposed to do, etc. And then you have the emerging properties at the population scale, at the field scale. It is finally what interests the farmer. It is to know what is the population of the pest on its field. And then our idea was to optimize the trapping strategy. So I will not get really into the detail of the model, but it is an agent-based model, which is you have an insect, many insects in fact, that have a perception of their environment, other plants, traps, other insects, and that takes the decision to move or not to move, and to move toward a given type of habitat. Voilà. And at the end, this is our model had the specificity to include two types of behavior, which was habitat selection. It means how an insect here select the habitat is supposed to move to, and it was also including the range of perception. It means according to the environment where the insect is living, it will not have the same perception of its environment. For example, if it is in the middle of residues of banana crop, it will not be able to perceive the environment as if it is on a bare soil, for example. Okay, this is an example of how we compare our model with observation. So we were able to represent on quite nicely the dynamic of the pest. Then we use our model to explore different strategies. Well, first, we try to explore how the spatial organization of the banana plant on the field alters the dynamic and the damages of the field. So here you have a regular planting pattern, where each plant are planted regularly on a square pattern. Here you have a row pattern, where all the banana plants are planted in rows, and here in the patches. And what we have seen is that this planting pattern alters both the time to colonize the field. It increases according to the type of pattern. But also, inversely, we have seen that the severe attacks are more important in this case. So it helps us to understand how we could organize the banana field. Interestingly, also, it helps us to better understand how traps could be effective. For example, what we have seen is that we compare the probability of a weevil that is on the model to be captured by a trap in the center of the area. And this is the map of probability of a weevil to be trapped. And we have what it shows basically is that the probability is much higher of a weevil to be trapped when it is on a bare soil condition, rather than if it is in a banana condition. And the probability tends to decrease with the abundance of bananas. Then we move to how we could optimize the traps. So we use a model to explore different scenarios. So here you have a farm. In the middle of the farm, you have an area where we destroy the bananas. So what should happen is that the weevil in this area might move to other part of the field. And we tested different options where the traps are located from the border of the field to the interface between the fallow and the banana field, and inside the fallow. And what we have seen is that we can maximize the capture of weevil when we put the trap at the interface. We have tested many other options. It's a bit complex to detail here, but what is really interesting is that we were able to use a model at different scale, at the local scale as I present here, but also as a landscape scale. And the strategies that were best evaluated by the model were then used by different companies. There is now 2 companies that are working in French West Indies for farmers. They provide a service of trapping for farmers. And these companies, Novapex and SIC, are using our output of models as the basis for the strategy of trapping in the different farms. What we have seen also in the model is that the model is really sensitive to the rate of predation of the eggs. So it's like it was a sensitivity analysis where we tested different values of predation of eggs, and we have seen that it is really sensitive. The damages inside the plots will be really is really sensitive to this parameter. So this moves us to the second part of my presentation, which is how we can use plant diversity to enhance this predation of eggs. Similarly to what I have presented yesterday on nematodes, we try to understand how when we add a new resource in the system, for instance, a cover crop, but it could also be some organic matter. It's a kind of resource. In our case, it was cover crop because it was the practice we are working on. How, when we add a cover crop, we modify the food web structure, and finally, how it modifies the links between species, and at the end, if it has an impact on the regulation of the weevil. Inside an agroecosystem, we can consider, generally it's what the people working on pest control are doing. They consider the crop, the pest, and the potential natural enemies. But in reality, it's much more complicated because you have weeds, you have potentially associated crops. In herbivores, you don't have only one, but you have many, and it's true for all the trophic groups. And inside this food web, you can have a very huge number of interactions. It's quite complex network. And whom is something very difficult to address with regular approaches. So what we have used, it's a metabarcoding, DNA metabarcoding approach to better understand which species are consumed by which other one. So the method is not so difficult, and it's now quite easy to use. So we take some all the individual on which we wanted to measure what they have eaten. We extracted that DNA, and we sequenced all the DNA that is inside their digestive tube. And then we compare the sequences to a library of sequences of all the possible species that were identified in the field, or not yet identified using banks like gene banks. So this approach makes possible to identify the proof of the consumption between two species and the frequency of the consumption. We were able to compare the interaction between herbivores and predators according to the type of situation in bare soil or in cover crop. For example, here you have the insect, Cosmopolites sordidus, that can be consumed by three species that was consumed by three species of predators, like 2 species of ants and 1 species of Dermaptera. Based on this, we were able to design some experiment to measure not only the consumption link, but the predation rate. And we measured, by comparing different situations with cover crop or without cover crop, that the predation rate of eggs was something like 2 to 7 times higher in the case of the cover crop. So, based on this knowledge, we were able to know which species are at play, the trophic link between species, and that the addition of plants is really something interesting to modify the food web and to orient the community. So, our idea was how we can use model to intend to optimize the system. There is some different practices that could be optimized in the system. For example, farmers may be able to mow the cover crop. So cover crop are mowed, so it creates a dynamic of the cover crop. And also, there is an interaction of this with the fertilization practices. So our idea was to see how we can integrate this knowledge on the relationship between species and the management of the system, because it manages the dynamic of the resources. So we designed a model that were able to address this interaction in order to evaluate the effect of mowing strategies and fertilization on the production, on the control of the weaver, on the conservation of arthropod diversity, and on the primary production. In some cases, it's something interesting, especially if some farmers may be able to use the cover crop as for animals. So we use a model that is linking two types of models, in fact. We use a crop growth model that is something quite classical, that simulates the interaction between bananas and cover crops in order to, in the interaction with the nitrogen resource of the system. And we use another type of model, which is describing the food web of the system. That is a Lotka-Volterra-based model. And linked together, they allowed us to really link the dynamic of the resource and the dynamic of the food web. So this is an example of the output, where you can see that you have the growth of the bananas, the growth of the cover crop according to the dynamic of mowing. Here you have the dynamic of the different trophic groups in the system. And then we use the model to explore different mowing intervals. So in weeks, it can be very short or very long, for different levels of fertilization, it's inverse, from high fertilization in red to low fertilization in blue. So based on this model, we were able to assess the control of the weevil, the primary production, the yield of banana, and the arthropod diversity. So the objective was not really to go to something very predictive, but rather to have something that that help us to better understand the interaction between the cultural practices and the overall functioning of the system. It gives us some very interesting direction of research and direction of management. Okay, to conclude, I would like to say that we have used several types of models, and all of them have addressed different issues. In some cases, it helped us to better understand the behavior of the system, and I think this is something really very interesting in model. By putting knowledge together and use the dynamic properties of the models, it's really a helpful tool to better understand how the system is functioning, not process by process, but on the overall processes. It's also very important to hierarchize the processes and the factors. As I have shown, initially we were thinking that the traps alone were a good option, but when we have tested the sensitivity of our model to the predation, we have really seen that the predation is something that could be very important in the system. As you have seen, it can also go to the support of the decision. Now, the companies that are making the trapping for the farmers are using the output of our model. And at last, it's a really interesting tool to integrate the knowledge. And if I have a recommendation in terms of modeling, if you want to do it in the future, don't make it very complex. Make it as simple as possible. It is really, if you don't try to go in something very complex, it will be maybe most valuable and more easy to do it. And I am sure that with 2 or 3 equations, simple equations, so I would like to acknowledge all my colleagues that participate to some part of the work, especially some PhD students, Fabrice, Charlotte, etc. And I thank you very much for your attention.